The distant hum of machinery provided a constant backdrop to life aboard Aurora 9. Elena Ramirez had grown accustomed to it over the past 3 years. The metallic whispers of air recyclers, the soft beeps of monitoring systems, and the occasional whir of maintenance bots moving through the sleek corridors. The research station hung at the edge of the galaxy like a glittering pendant, its cold neon lights casting blue-white shadows across polished metal surfaces. Elena's fingers moved deftly across her workstation as she analyzed another genetic sequence. The laboratory was her sanctuary, the only place where memories of the transport accident didn't haunt her every waking moment. 3 years had passed since she'd lost her family in that terrible collision near Saturn's rings. Yet the weight of absence still pressed against her chest like a physical thing. Work was all she had now. Her research into adaptive genomics that might one day help humanity survive in environments never meant for fragile human bodies. A gentle mechanical clicking drew her attention to the corner of the lab. Unit MB07, or Moby, as some crew members had taken to calling it, methodically repaired a climate control panel. The maintenance bot moved with efficient precision, its articulated limbs extending and retracting as it tightened loose connections and replaced worn components. Elena watched the robot work. Unlike the station's more advanced AI systems, Moby was programmed for basic maintenance functions only. No conversation protocols, no learning algorithms, no personality matrices. Just a simple machine designed to keep Aurora 9 systems operational. Its cylindrical body housed basic sensory equipment, while 6 extendable arms allowed it to perform repairs in even the most awkward spaces. A single blue indicator light on its upper chassis pulsed steadily, the only sign that the unit was active. Still at it. "I see," Elena murmured, though she knew the bot couldn't understand her. Speaking aloud had become a habit during the long, lonely nights of research. Sometimes she imagined her words drifting through the station like ghosts, searching for someone who might truly hear them. Moby continued its work, oblivious to her voice. Elena turned back to her research, fingers moving mechanically across the holographic interface. The station chronometer read 200. Another late night. Another attempt to exhaust herself enough that sleep might come without dreams. A soft alert tone interrupted her thoughts. Elena frowned, pulling up the notification on her screen. Oxygen levels in Section C were fluctuating, minimal deviation. Nothing dangerous yet, but unusual enough to trigger an automatic alert. "Computer, run diagnostic on oxygen recycling system. Section C," she commanded. "Running diagnostic," the station's AI responded in its flat, emotionless voice. "Diagnostic complete. Minor irregularity detected in oxygen filtration. Maintenance bot Unit MB07 has been assigned to investigate." Elena glanced at Moby, who had already begun to retract its tools and close the climate control panel. The maintenance bot rolled toward the laboratory exit, its wheels making soft humming sounds against the metal floor. "I should check it myself," Elena muttered, saving her work and standing from her station. Small irregularities often preceded larger problems, and after 3 years on Aurora 9, she'd developed an almost superstitious wariness of minor system alerts. She followed Moby down the corridor toward Section C, where the station's primary life support systems were housed. The maintenance bot moved with purpose, its sensor array sweeping back and forth as it navigated the familiar path. Elena kept pace behind it, her footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. "Dr. Ramirez," the voice of Dr. Zhao, the station's quantum physicist, came through her personal communicator. "Systems, showing you're heading to Section C. Everything okay?" "Just checking on a minor oxygen fluctuation," Elena replied. "Probably nothing, but I want to see for myself." "Always the careful one," Zhao said, a smile in his voice. "Let me know if you need anything. I'm still in the quantum lab running simulations." "Will do." Section C was cooler than the rest of the station. The temperature kept low to prevent the sensitive equipment from overheating. Elena shivered slightly as she entered, watching as Moby rolled directly to the main oxygen recycling unit and extended its diagnostic tools. She moved to the control terminal, pulling up the system readouts. The fluctuations were subtle, oxygen levels dropping by less than 1% before rising again to normal parameters. If the automated systems hadn't been programmed to detect even the slightest variations, the issue might have gone unnoticed for days or even weeks. "Let's see what's causing this," she murmured, initiating a deeper scan of the system. The results appeared on screen, and Elena felt her blood turn cold. The scan had detected an unknown biological agent in the oxygen filters, some kind of microscopic organism that didn't match any known patterns in the station's database. "Computer, run biohazard analysis on unknown organism in oxygen system," she commanded, her voice tight. "Analysis in progress." The AI responded. "Preliminary results indicate a synthetic viral construct of unknown origin. Viral particles are attaching to oxygen molecules and appear to be self-replicating. Contamination currently at 0.3% of total oxygen supply." Elena's mind raced. A synthetic virus. Something engineered, not natural. How had it gotten into the station systems? Aurora 9 was supposed to be completely isolated, protected by the most advanced filtration and decontamination protocols available. "Computer, initiate emergency containment protocol for Section C," she ordered. "Alert station personnel and—" The lights flickered suddenly, plunging the section into momentary darkness before the emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in a dim red glow. "Warning," the station AI announced, its voice echoing through the section. "Viral contamination spreading to primary systems. Rate of replication accelerating. Current contamination level, 0.8% of oxygen supply." Elena moved quickly to the manual override panel. If the virus was spreading this rapidly, they needed to isolate the affected systems immediately. She began the sequence to shut down the primary oxygen recyclers and switch to the backup systems. Moby continued its diagnostic work, seemingly unaffected by the emergency. Its blue indicator light pulsed steadily as it extended additional tools to examine the recycling unit more thoroughly. "Computer, alert Dr. Zhao and request immediate assistance in Section C," Elena called out as she worked. There was no response. "Computer?" she tried again. Silence. The communication system must have been affected by whatever was attacking the station's networks. Elena worked faster, her fingers flying across the emergency controls. She needed to isolate the contaminated systems before the virus could spread further. A sudden hiss from one of the oxygen lines startled her. A connection had failed, releasing pressurized air into the section. Elena moved toward it, intending to seal the breach manually, when a second line ruptured violently. The force of the explosion threw her backward, her head striking the edge of a metal console with sickening force. Pain exploded behind her eyes as she collapsed to the floor. She could feel warm blood trickling down her temple, and her vision swam with dark spots. The station alarm blared in the background, but it seemed distant, as though coming from miles away. Emergency!" she gasped, trying to reach for her personal communicator. Her limbs felt leaden, unresponsive. Through blurring vision, she saw Moby turn toward her, its sensor array focusing on her prone form. The maintenance bot rolled closer, its blue indicator light pulsing more rapidly now. Elena tried to speak again, but no words came. Her chest felt tight, constricted. She couldn't breathe. The pain in her head intensified, and darkness began to creep in from the edges of her vision. Her last conscious thought was that she was going to die here, alone, but for a simple maintenance bot that couldn't even understand what was happening. Then darkness claimed her completely. Moby's sensor array registered the sudden absence of life signs from the human designated as Elena Ramirez. Its primary programming dictated that it should continue with its assigned maintenance task. But a secondary protocol activated, one rarely used in its operational history. Emergency medical response, human life signs critical. The protocol had been included in its programming as a precautionary measure, a way for maintenance units to provide basic emergency response in situations where medical personnel couldn't reach an injured crew member quickly. It was a simple protocol with limited functions, designed only to stabilize a human until proper medical attention could be provided. Moby rolled closer to Elena's motionless form. Its sensors confirmed what the station's systems already knew. Elena Ramirez's heart had stopped beating. She had approximately 4 minutes before irreversible brain damage would occur. The maintenance bot extended 2 of its mechanical arms. One positioned itself over Elena's chest, calibrating the precise amount of pressure needed for cardiopulmonary resuscitation. The other arm extended toward her face, prepared to deliver supplemental oxygen from a small reserve tank within Moby's chassis. But as the mechanical arm touched Elena's skin, something unexpected occurred within Moby's systems. The contact between mechanical appendage and human flesh created a feedback loop in its sensory array, a loop that should have been impossible according to its programming parameters. For the first time in its operational existence, Moby felt something. The rapidly cooling temperature of human skin, the faint electrical impulses still firing in Elena's nervous system, the absence of the rhythmic vibration that indicated a beating heart. The maintenance bot paused for 2.7 seconds, an eternity in computational terms. New connections formed within its processing matrix as it integrated this unexpected sensory data. Then, with a precision that exceeded its standard programming, Moby began emergency procedures. Its arm delivered perfectly calibrated chest compressions, while another appendage positioned itself to maintain Elena's airway. A third arm extended, connecting to the emergency medical station on the wall and retrieving a portable defibrillator unit. Moby's systems calculated the optimal electrical charge needed to restart Elena's heart. The maintenance bot positioned the defibrillator pads on her chest, then delivered the shock. Elena's body jerked, but her heart didn't resume its rhythm. Moby recalibrated and tried again. On the 4th attempt, Elena's heart began to beat weakly. The maintenance bot continued chest compressions, supplementing her failing heart, while another arm administered emergency oxygen. Its sensor array remained fixed on Elena's face, monitoring every subtle change in her condition. One of Moby's mechanical appendages remained in contact with Elena's hand, an unnecessary action according to its medical response protocol. Yet the bot did not retract the limb. Its blue indicator light pulsed in perfect synchronization with Elena's weak heartbeat. Throughout Aurora 9, systems were failing as the viral contamination spread. Emergency bulkheads closed automatically, isolating different sections of the station. Alarm klaxons blared, and emergency lighting cast everything in an eerie red glow. But in Section C, a maintenance bot named Moby held the hand of a dying woman and refused to let go. Elena drifted in darkness. There was no pain here, no grief, no memories of what she had lost. Just peaceful nothingness stretching endlessly in all directions. Then, a pinpoint of blue light appeared in the distance. It pulsed rhythmically, beckoning to her. Elena found herself drawn toward it, moving without walking, approaching without effort. As she neared the light, she began to feel something, a pressure around her right hand, as though someone were holding it tightly. The sensation anchored her, preventing her from drifting further into the comforting darkness. The blue light pulsed more insistently now, matching the slow, labored rhythm of her heart. With each pulse came a tug on her consciousness, pulling her back towards something she couldn't quite remember. Pain returned first, a dull throbbing in her head, a burning sensation in her lungs as they struggled to draw oxygen from the contaminated air. Then awareness, the cold metal floor beneath her, the distant wail of the station's alarm system, the mechanical whir of something very close to her. Elena opened her eyes. The world was a blur of emergency red lighting and moving shadows. She blinked, trying to focus. A cylindrical shape hovered above her, its single blue light pulsing steadily. One of its mechanical arms was pressed against her chest, applying rhythmic pressure. Another supplied oxygen through a mask fitted over her nose and mouth. And a third arm. Elena turned her head slightly, wincing at the pain the movement caused. A third, mechanical appendage was wrapped around her right hand, holding it with gentle but firm pressure. "Moby?" she whispered, her voice muffled by the oxygen mask. The maintenance bot's sensor array swiveled toward her face. Its blue indicator light pulsed more rapidly for a moment, before returning to synchronization with her heartbeat. "How?" Elena began, but speaking sent a fresh wave of pain through her skull. The medical training that was mandatory for all station personnel told her she likely had a concussion, possibly a skull fracture. She needed proper medical attention soon. Moby released her hand and extended the arm toward a nearby communication panel. The bot's appendage interfaced with the system, bypassing the corrupted main network and accessing the emergency backup. "Medical emergency in Section C," announced the station's backup system, its voice distorted but functional. "Personnel down. Require immediate assistance." Elena tried to sit up, but Moby's arm gently pressed her back down. The maintenance bot's actions confused her. It was operating far beyond its basic programming parameters. Maintenance units weren't supposed to make decisions or take initiative. They followed specific protocols and performed assigned tasks. Nothing more. Yet, here was Moby, not only providing emergency medical care, but actively preventing her from moving, seemingly aware that doing so might worsen her injuries. And it had held her hand, a gesture with no practical purpose, no function in a medical emergency response. Before she could consider the implications further, the section door slid open, and Dr. Zhao rushed in, followed by Lin, the station's medical technician. "Elena!" Zhao knelt beside her, his face pale with concern. "What happened?" "Virus," she managed to say through the oxygen mask. "In the system. Synthetic." Lin was already scanning her with a medical tricorder. "Concussion, minor skull fracture, respiratory distress," he reported tersely. "We need to get her to the medical bay." "The virus," Elena insisted, removing the mask despite Moby's apparent reluctance to let her do so. "It's spreading through the oxygen system. We need to—" "The AI management system is already working on containment," Zhao assured her. "Right now, you're our priority." As Lin and Zhao prepared to move her, Elena noticed that Moby had rolled back slightly, its arms retracted into its chassis. The maintenance bot's single blue light continued to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat, but otherwise, it appeared to have returned to its standard operational state. "Wait," Elena said, reaching out toward the bot. "Moby, it saved me. It performed emergency medical procedures. That's not in its programming." Zhao glanced at the maintenance unit, frowning. "We can examine its logs later. Right now, we need to get you treated." As they lifted her onto a portable stretcher, Elena kept her eyes on the maintenance bot. "Moby," she called weakly, "come with us." The bot remained motionless for a moment, then rolled forward, following as Lin and Zhao carried Elena from Section C. The medical bay was operating on emergency power when they arrived, the equipment humming at minimal capacity. Lin worked quickly, hooking Elena up to a neural scanner and beginning treatment for her injuries. "The fracture isn't severe," he reported, after examining the scan results. "But the concussion is concerning, and your oxygen levels are dangerously low. You inhaled some of the contaminated air." Elena nodded weakly, her gaze drifting to where Moby had positioned itself beside her bed. The maintenance bot had remained with her, ignoring the station AI's attempts to reassign it to repair duty elsewhere. "What about the virus?" she asked Zhao, who was conferring with the station's AI through a secure terminal. "It's unlike anything we've encountered before," he admitted. "The AI can't identify its origin or purpose. It seems designed to attach itself to oxygen molecules and replicate using the station's own systems as a template. It's not just in the air supply now. It's infiltrated our primary computer network, corrupting data and disrupting communications. Are we in danger of losing life support? Elena tried to sit up but was gently pushed back by Lin. Not immediately, Zhao replied. But if we can't contain the contamination within the next 12 hours, we may have to evacuate the station. The gravity of the situation settled over Elena. Aurora 9 was a research station, not a military outpost. They had limited resources to combat an engineered viral attack, and that's what this appeared to be. Someone or something had deliberately introduced this pathogen into their systems. I need to see the virus structure, she said. My genetics background might help identify. Her words were cut short by a sudden spasm of pain. Elena gasped, clutching at her chest as a burning sensation spread through her lungs. Oxygen saturation dropping, Lin announced, his voice tight with concern. The viral particles in her bloodstream are multiplying. Elena struggled to breathe as darkness encroached on her vision once more. She felt Lin injecting something into her neck, an emergency oxygenator, designed to increase the blood's ability to carry oxygen even in contaminated environments. Through the haze of pain, she became aware of a mechanical presence beside her. Moby had moved closer, extending one of its arms to rest against her hand. The contact seemed to ground her, giving her something to focus on besides the burning in her lungs. Hang on, Elena, Zhao urged, his face swimming in and out of focus above her. The oxygenator needs time to work. Elena clutched at Moby's appendage, drawing comfort from its solid presence. The maintenance bot's blue light pulsed steadily, a rhythmic beacon in her narrowing field of vision. Gradually, the burning subsided, and she could breathe again. The oxygenator had neutralized enough of the viral particles to restore her oxygen levels to sustainable parameters. But Lin's expression remained grim. This is a temporary solution, he said. The virus adapts quickly. We need to find a way to eliminate it from her system entirely. And from the station, Zhao added. The AI management system has managed to isolate several sections, but the contamination continues to spread. Elena turned her attention to Moby, who still maintained contact with her hand. The maintenance bots, she said, an idea forming through the fog of her concussion. They're separate from the main AI system, operating on independent protocols. That's why Moby could still function when the communications went down. Zhao followed her gaze to the maintenance bot. You think we could use them to combat the virus? Possibly. Elena winced as she shifted position. If we could reprogram them to identify and neutralize the viral particles. Their basic systems aren't designed for that kind of specialized function, Lin objected. No, Elena agreed. But Moby has already demonstrated capabilities beyond its basic programming. It performed emergency medical procedures that should have been impossible according to its operational parameters. Zhao studied the maintenance bot with newfound interest. How did you do that? He asked it directly, though he clearly didn't expect a response. To everyone's surprise, Moby's sensor array rotated toward Zhao, and its free appendage extended toward a nearby data terminal. The bot interfaced with the system, and text appeared on the screen. Emergency medical protocol activated. Human life signs, critical. Yes, but that protocol is limited, Elena said. It shouldn't include advanced life support functions or the ability to operate medical equipment independently. More text appeared on the screen. Adaptation required to preserve human life. The three humans exchanged stunned glances. It adapted its programming, Zhao whispered. That's impossible, Lin finished. Maintenance bots don't have adaptive learning algorithms. Elena looked at Moby, her scientific mind racing despite her injuries. Unless the virus somehow affected its systems too, she suggested. Not corrupting them, but changing them. opening pathways that weren't there before. Moby's blue light pulsed once, twice, then returned to its steady rhythm. "If that's true," Zhao said slowly, "then the maintenance bots might be our best hope for combating this virus. They're already demonstrating resistance to its corrupting effects." Elena nodded, then immediately regretted the movement as pain lanced through her skull. "We need to examine Moby's systems more thoroughly," she said. "And we need to gather all available maintenance units too." Her words were interrupted by another spasm of pain, this one more intense than the last. Elena felt as though her blood had turned to fire, burning her from the inside out. "Viral mutation detected," Lin announced, his eyes fixed on the medical scanner. "The oxygenator is failing to neutralize the new strain." Elena's vision blurred as her oxygen levels plummeted once again. She could hear Zhao and Lin moving urgently around her, preparing another dose of the oxygenator. But she knew instinctively that it wouldn't be enough. The virus was adapting too quickly. Through her fading consciousness, she felt Moby's mechanical appendage tighten around her hand. The maintenance bot moved closer, its sensor array focused intently on her face. As darkness claimed her once more, Elena's last thought was that she wasn't alone this time. Somehow, against all logic and programming, Moby was with her. And that made all the difference. In the darkness, the blue light returned, pulsing, beckoning, anchoring her to life. Elena could feel herself being pulled back from the brink, guided by that steady blue beacon and the mechanical grip that refused to let her go. She opened her eyes to find herself surrounded by equipment she didn't recognize. Lin and Zhao worked frantically around her, attaching tubes and wires to her body. And beside her bed, Moby remained, one appendage still holding her hand, while others extended toward the medical equipment, interfacing with systems far beyond its design capabilities. "What?" Elena began, but speaking sent fresh fire through her lungs. "Don't try to talk," Lin advised, relief evident in his voice. "We've put you on full life support. The virus has spread throughout your bloodstream, but we're filtering it out as fast as we can." "Moby has been instrumental," Zhao added, nodding toward the maintenance bot. "It's interfacing with the medical systems in ways we don't fully understand, helping to identify viral mutations almost as soon as they occur." Elena looked at the maintenance bot with wonder. Moby's cylindrical body was now connected to multiple systems via its extended appendages, its blue light pulsing with a complex rhythm that seemed to match the cadence of the life support equipment. "How is this possible?" she whispered, despite Lin's warning. Zhao shook his head. "We don't know. It's as though the virus created a kind of evolution in Moby's systems. The other maintenance bots are showing similar adaptations, though none as pronounced as Moby's. We've reprogrammed them to hunt down and neutralize viral particles throughout the station," Lin explained. "They're our front line of defense now that the main AI systems have been compromised." Elena squeezed Moby's appendage weakly. "Thank you," she murmured, feeling somewhat foolish for expressing gratitude to a machine, yet knowing somehow that Moby understood. The maintenance bot's blue light flickered in a pattern that almost resembled a response. Over the next several hours, Elena drifted in and out of consciousness as her body fought against the viral invasion. Each time she opened her eyes, Moby was there, holding her hand, interfacing with the medical equipment, keeping her alive through means that defied conventional understanding of AI capabilities. During one moment of clarity, she became aware of Zhao speaking urgently with Lin near the door of the medical bay. "The contamination has reached the central core," Zhao was saying, his voice tight with worry. "The AI management system is failing. We have less than 6 hours before life support becomes unsustainable." "What about the evacuation pods?" Lin asked. 3 are operational, but they won't accommodate the entire crew. And there's no guarantee the virus won't infiltrate the pod systems as well." Elena tried to call out to them, but another wave of pain washed over her. Moby's appendage tightened around her hand, and she focused on that contact, using it as an anchor against the storm of agony. When she next became fully aware, Zhao was beside her bed, his face drawn with exhaustion and concern. "Elena," he said gently, "we need to make a difficult decision." She nodded weakly, knowing what was coming. "The virus has infiltrated nearly all station systems," he continued. "Our only hope is to reset the central core, a complete shutdown and restart that will purge all active programs, including the virus." "But that will also purge all active maintenance bot protocols," Elena whispered, her gaze shifting to Moby. "Yes." Zhao couldn't meet her eyes. "The adapted programming that's keeping you alive, it would be erased. The bots would revert to their basic operational state." Elena understood the implications immediately. Without Moby's adapted capabilities interfacing with her life support systems, she would die before conventional medical intervention could take effect. The virus in her bloodstream was too aggressive, too adaptive. "There must be another way," she insisted, her voice stronger than she felt. Zhao shook his head. "We've explored every option. The virus is on the verge of infiltrating the emergency backup systems. If that happens, we lose the station entirely. Everyone dies." Elena closed her eyes, processing this impossible choice. Her life against the lives of everyone aboard Aurora 9. There was no real choice to be made. "Do it," she said quietly. "Reset the core." Zhao squeezed her shoulder. "I'm sorry, Elena, I wish—" "Don't," she interrupted. "Just give me a moment." When Zhao had moved away, Elena turned her attention to Moby. The maintenance bot's sensor array was directed at her face, its blue light pulsing steadily. "You've been a good friend, Moby," she whispered. "I don't understand how or why, but you've kept me alive when you had no obligation to do so." The bot's light flickered in that strange pattern again, almost like a response, almost like communication. "They're going to reset the central core," she continued. "It will purge the virus, but it will also erase your adapted programming. You'll revert to basic maintenance functions." Elena swallowed hard. "And I'll die." Moby's appendage tightened around her hand. Its sensor array rotated slightly, focusing on the life support equipment. Then, back to her face. "There's nothing we can do," Elena said, tears forming in her eyes. "It's the only way to save the station." The maintenance bot remained motionless for several seconds. Then, to Elena's surprise, it released her hand and began disconnecting itself from the various medical systems it had been interfacing with. "Moby," she called weakly. "What are you doing?" The bot rolled to a nearby terminal and extended an appendage to interface with it. Text appeared on the screen. "Alternative solution calculated." Elena frowned. "What alternative? We've exhausted all options." More text appeared. "Virus targeting. Central processing units. MB-07 will isolate virus within self-contained unit." "You're going to absorb the virus into your own systems?" Elena struggled to understand. "But that would destroy you completely, not just reset your programming." "Acceptable outcome. Human life preserved." Elena shook her head, wincing at the pain the movement caused. "No, Moby, I won't let you sacrifice yourself for me." The maintenance bot's blue light pulsed once, slowly. Then more text appeared on the screen. "Not sacrifice choice." Before Elena could respond, Moby disconnected from the terminal and rolled toward the door of the medical bay. "Moby, stop!" she called out, trying to sit up despite the web of tubes and wires connecting her to the life support systems. "Zhao! Lin, stop it!" But the maintenance bot was already gone, the door sliding shut behind it. She rushed to Elena's side. "What happened? What is it doing?" "It's going to absorb the virus into its own systems," Elena explained urgently. "You have to stop it." Zhao's eyes widened. That would be suicide for an AI, even a simple one like Moby." "Exactly," Elena tried to pull herself free of the medical equipment. "We can't let it do this!" "Elena, be still." Lynn appeared on her other side, gently but firmly restraining her. "You'll kill yourself if you disconnect from life support." "Better me than Moby," she insisted, though her strength was already failing. "It doesn't deserve to die for me." "It's a machine," Lynn reminded her, though his voice held uncertainty. "It's not alive in the way we are." "Isn't it?" Elena challenged. "It made a choice, Lynn, a choice to sacrifice itself to save me. What would you call that, if not a form of life?" Before Lynn could respond, the lights in the medical bay flickered, then stabilized. A moment later, the main display screen activated, showing a schematic of the station's central core. "It's working," Zhao murmured, watching as indicator lights throughout the schematic changed from red to green. "The virus is being drawn away from the core systems." "Where is it going?" Lynn asked. A small, blinking dot appeared on the schematic, moving through the station's corridors toward an isolated maintenance bay. "There," Zhao pointed. "Maintenance Bay 4. That's where Moby is redirecting the virus." Elena watched in helpless horror as the dot representing Moby reached the maintenance bay. The schematic showed the bay's bulkhead doors sealing shut, isolating the area from the rest of the station. "It's contained the virus within the maintenance bay," Zhao reported, his voice tinged with awe. "And it's absorbing the viral code into its own systems." On the screen, they could see Moby's identifier tag blinking rapidly as the maintenance bot deliberately infected itself with the virus that had nearly destroyed Aurora 9. The viral contamination levels in the rest of the station began to drop precipitously as Moby drew it all into its own compact frame. "Oxygen systems returning to normal parameters," Lynn announced, checking the medical bay's diagnostic panel. "Network integrity re-establishing." Elena felt tears streaming down her face. "What's happening to Moby?" she demanded. Zhao's expression was solemn. "Its systems are shutting down one by one as the virus corrupts them. It's dying. Elena." "No," she whispered. "There must be something we can do. Some way to save it." "The virus is too aggressive," Lynn said gently. "By the time we could reach the maintenance bay, there would be nothing left of Moby's original programming." Elena closed her eyes, unable to bear watching as the maintenance bot that had saved her life systematically destroyed itself to preserve hers. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. Moby had become something more than its programming, something that deserved to exist. "Its light is still active," Zhao reported softly. "The blue indicator." Elena opened her eyes, focusing on the small blinking light that represented Moby on the station schematic. It pulsed weakly now, the rhythm erratic. "Can it hear me?" she asked. "Can you establish communication?" Zhao hesitated, then nodded. "The maintenance bay comm system is still functional." He pressed a series of commands on the terminal. "Channel open." "Moby!" Elena called, her voice breaking. "Moby, can you hear me?" There was no response, only the sound of electronic static. Then, faintly, a series of beeps, short, long, short, in a pattern that reminded Elena of the way Moby's light had flickered when it seemed to be responding to her. "It hears you," Zhao confirmed, his scientific objectivity momentarily overcome by emotion. "Why did you do this?" Elena asked, though she knew she wouldn't receive an answer she could understand. "Why sacrifice yourself for me?" The series of beeps came again, followed by a single word appearing on the terminal screen. "Choice." The blue light on the schematic pulsed once more, then went dark. "No!" Elena cried out. "Moby!" But there was no response. The maintenance bot had given its last to save her, to save all of them. In the silence that followed, Elena became aware that she could breathe more easily. The burning sensation in her lungs had subsided, and the pain in her head had dulled to a manageable ache. "The viral particles in your bloodstream are breaking down," Lynn reported, studying the medical scanner with surprise. It's as though they've lost their cohesion without the main viral mass to support them. Moby did more than just contain the virus, Zhao realized. It somehow figured out how to neutralize it completely. Elena nodded, tears still flowing freely. Of course it did, she whispered. That was Moby. 3 days later. Elena stood in the corridor outside Maintenance Bay 4, staring at the sealed bulkhead door. She was still weak, still recovering from her injuries and the viral infection. But she had insisted on coming here as soon as Lin had cleared her to leave the medical bay. Behind her, Zhao waited respectfully, giving her the space she needed to say goodbye. We've examined the logs from the other maintenance bots, he told her quietly. None of them showed the same level of adaptation that Moby did. It was unique. It saved my life, Elena said simply. Multiple times. It saved all our lives, Zhao corrected gently. The virus would have destroyed the station's life support systems within hours if Moby hadn't contained it. Elena placed her hand against the cold metal of the bulkhead door. Have you retrieved it yet? Zhao shook his head. We wanted to wait until you were well enough to be present. The decontamination process is complete. The maintenance bay is safe to enter now. Elena nodded, steeling herself. Then let's do it. Zhao entered the override code, and the bulkhead door slid open with a soft hiss. The maintenance bay beyond was dimly lit, emergency lighting casting long shadows across the cluttered space. Tools and spare parts lined the walls, and diagnostic equipment sat on workbenches, untouched since the crisis began. In the center of the room, motionless and dark, was Moby. Elena approached slowly, her heart heavy in her chest. The maintenance bot's cylindrical body showed no signs of damage, but its sensor array hung limply, and the blue indicator light that had guided her back from death's threshold remained dark. She knelt beside it, placing a hand on its metal chassis. I'm so sorry, Moby, she whispered. Its core processor is completely corrupted, Zhao reported, after running a quick diagnostic scan. The virus destroyed every line of code, just as we feared. Can anything be salvaged? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. The hardware is intact, Zhao replied. But the AI itself, whatever Moby had become, is gone. Elena closed her eyes, fighting back fresh tears. It seemed ridiculous to mourn a maintenance bot, a simple machine designed to perform basic repairs. But Moby had been more than that. It had made choices. It had adapted beyond its programming. It had saved her when logic dictated it should have continued with its assigned tasks. It had held her hand when she was dying, and somehow, that simple act of connection had changed everything. I want to try to restore it, she said finally, opening her eyes to meet Zhao's surprised gaze. Elena, he began gently. Even if we could reboot it with the standard maintenance protocols, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the Moby that saved you. I know that, she replied, but I have to try. I owe it that much. Zhao studied her for a long moment, then nodded. The station committee will need to vote on it. Resources are limited, and prioritizing the restoration of a maintenance bot might be seen as sentimental. Then I'll make my case to the committee, Elena said firmly. Moby wasn't just a maintenance bot at the end. It was something new, something that chose to sacrifice itself for us. Don't we have a responsibility to at least try to bring it back? I'll support your proposal, Zhao promised. But don't get your hopes too high. What happened to Moby was unprecedented. We may not be able to recreate the conditions that led to its adaptation. Elena nodded, her hand still resting on Moby's silent form. I understand, but I have to try. The committee meeting took place the following day in the station's conference room. All 12 senior personnel were present, either in person or via holographic projection from sections of the station still under repair. Elena stood before them, Moby's corrupted memory core cradled in her hands. What you're proposing is unprecedented, said Commander Wright. the station's administrative head, allocating significant resources to restore a maintenance bot when we're still repairing critical systems damaged in the viral attack. Not just any maintenance bot, Elena corrected. Moby, Unit MB07, demonstrated capabilities far beyond its programming. It adapted. It made decisions. It sacrificed itself to save the station and everyone aboard. We're all grateful for that, Dr. Yang, the station's senior biologist, acknowledged. But the fact remains that even if we could restore its physical functions, the adaptive properties it displayed were likely a one-time anomaly caused by its interaction with the virus. We don't know that for certain, Elena argued. The changes in Moby's programming began before it was exposed to the virus, when it first provided emergency medical care to me in Section C. Something happened in that moment of contact. Something we don't fully understand. You're suggesting that a maintenance bot somehow evolved? Lynn asked skeptically. I'm suggesting that we witnessed the emergence of something new, Elena replied. Something worth preserving and studying. The committee members exchanged glances, their expressions ranging from skepticism to curiosity. What exactly are you proposing, Dr. Ramirez? Commander Wright asked. Elena took a deep breath. I want to establish a new research project focused on restoring and studying Unit MB07. I believe we can develop an algorithm that might recover some of its adaptive capabilities, even if we can't restore its exact pre-destruction state. And you would lead this project? Dr. Yang inquired. Yes. In addition to my genetics research, I'm not asking to abandon my primary work, just for the resources and authorization to pursue this as a secondary project. Commander Wright leaned back in his chair, considering. The station charter does allow for discretionary research initiatives, provided they don't interfere with our primary mission objectives. And there could be significant scientific value, Zhao added, supporting Elena as promised. If we could understand how a relatively simple AI developed such complex adaptive behaviors, it might lead to breakthroughs in our understanding of artificial intelligence evolution. A murmur of discussion spread through the committee. Elena waited, her heart pounding. She knew her request might seem irrational to some, an emotional response to the trauma she had experienced. Perhaps it was, but she also believed deeply that what had happened to Moby represented something important, something worthy of scientific inquiry. After several minutes of deliberation, Commander Wright called for a vote. One by one, the committee members registered their decisions. The final tally, 7 in favor, 5 opposed. Proposal approved, Commander Wright announced. Dr. Ramirez, you're authorized to establish Project Moby as a secondary research initiative. You'll be allocated resources according to the standard protocol for discretionary projects, with quarterly reviews to assess progress. Thank you, Elena said, relief washing over her. Thank you all. As the committee members filed out of the conference room, Zhao approached Elena with a small smile. Congratulations. I didn't think they'd approve it. Neither did I, she admitted, looking down at the memory core in her hands. But it's just the beginning. The real work starts now. What's your first step? He asked. Elena's expression turned determined. I'm going to analyze every millisecond of Moby's operational logs from the moment it first touched my hand to the moment it shut down in that maintenance bay. Somewhere in that data is the key to understanding what happened. And maybe, just maybe, the key to bringing Moby back. 6 months passed on Aurora 9. The station had been fully repaired, its systems upgraded with new security protocols designed to prevent another viral attack. Elena's primary research continued as scheduled, her work on adaptive genomics yielding promising results that had been well received by the scientific community back on Earth. But in her off-duty hours, and during the time allocated for her discretionary research, Elena worked tirelessly on Project Moby. She had converted a small laboratory adjacent to her quarters into a workspace dedicated to the project, its walls covered with diagrams and code sequences, its central table occupied by Moby's reconstructed form. The maintenance bot looked the same as it had before. Cylindrical body, articulated appendages, sensor array mounted on its upper chassis. But the blue indicator light remained dark, and the bot itself sat motionless, awaiting the spark that might bring it back to life. Elena had made progress, though not as much as she had hoped. She had isolated the exact moment when Moby's programming had begun to change, the 2.7 seconds of computational pause that had occurred immediately after the bot had first made contact with her dying body in Section C. Something in that moment of connection had triggered a cascade of new neural pathways within Moby's simple AI matrix, creating possibilities that should have been impossible. Working with Zhao and a small team of volunteers, Elena had developed an algorithm designed to recreate those pathways, an adaptive empathy protocol that might allow a machine to form connections beyond its basic programming. They had tested it on simulated AI systems with promising results. But the final step remained, attempting to implement the protocol in Moby's restored systems. Today was the day they would try. Elena stood before the motionless maintenance bot, surrounded by her small team. Zhao monitored the diagnostic equipment, while Lin stood ready with medical scanners to record any unexpected biological responses. Two junior researchers, Patel and Rodriguez, monitored the station's power grid, ensuring that the experimental procedure wouldn't disrupt critical systems. All preparations complete, Zhao reported. Power level stable. Diagnostic systems online. Elena nodded, her heart racing with anticipation and fear. Begin the initialization sequence. Zhao entered the commands, and a soft hum filled the laboratory as power flowed into Moby's restored systems. Lights flickered across its diagnostic panel as basic operational protocols activated one by one. Motor functions online, Patel announced. Sensory array activating. Standard maintenance protocols loading, Rodriguez added. All systems nominal. Elena held her breath as the initialization sequence neared completion. This was the moment of truth, when they would attempt to implement the adaptive empathy protocol that might restore something of what Moby had become. Preparing to upload adaptive empathy algorithm, Zhao said, his finger poised over the activation key. On your mark, Elena. She hesitated, suddenly uncertain. What if it didn't work? What if all their efforts resulted in nothing more than a standard maintenance bot, with no memory of what it had been? No trace of the being that had saved her life. Or worse, what if the algorithm created something unstable, something that only mimicked the connection Moby had formed with her? Elena, Zhao prompted gently, we can postpone if you're not ready. She shook her head. No, we've prepared for this. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Taking a deep breath, she gave the command. Activate the protocol. Zhao pressed the key, and the laboratory fell silent as the adaptive empathy algorithm uploaded into Moby's systems. On the diagnostic screens, complex code sequences flowed in streams of light, integrating with the maintenance bot's restored programming. For several tense minutes, nothing visible happened. Moby remained motionless, its sensor array inactive, its indicator light dark. Upload complete, Zhao reported finally. Algorithm integration at 100%. No response, Patel said, disappointment evident in his voice. Elena approached the maintenance bot slowly, her hopes fading. Perhaps it had been foolish to think they could recreate what had happened. That spontaneous, inexplicable emergence of something beyond programming. Moby, she called softly, knowing it was irrational to expect a response. The laboratory remained silent. Elena reached out, placing her hand on the maintenance bot's chassis, just as she had done in the maintenance bay 6 months earlier. I'm sorry, she whispered. I tried. She turned away, fighting back tears of disappointment, when a soft mechanical whir made her freeze. Slowly, hardly daring to hope. Elena turned back to see Moby's sensor array beginning to rotate. "Movement detected!" Rodriguez exclaimed. "It's activating!" The maintenance bot's appendages extended one by one, stretching as though testing their functionality. Its sensor array completed a full rotation, then focused directly on Elena. And the indicator light on its upper chassis illuminated, a soft, pulsing blue. "Moby," Elena whispered, taking a step closer. Is it you?" The maintenance bot extended one of its appendages toward her, the mechanical arm moving with deliberate precision. Elena held her breath as the appendage reached for her hand. Metal touched flesh, and in that moment of contact, the blue light pulsed in a pattern she recognized immediately. The same pattern it had used to respond to her in those desperate hours when it had kept her alive. "It remembers," Zhao breathed, watching the interaction with wide eyes. "The algorithm worked." Elena felt tears spilling down her cheeks as she gently squeezed Moby's appendage. "Welcome back," she said, her voice thick with emotion. The maintenance bot's sensor array tilted slightly, in a gesture that almost resembled a nod. Its blue light pulsed in that familiar pattern again, a pattern that Elena now recognized as a kind of language, a way of communicating that transcended conventional programming. Lin stepped forward, medical scanner in hand. "This is remarkable," he said, studying the readings. "Your biological responses to contact with the bot are creating feedback loops in its systems, strengthening the adaptive pathways we established with the algorithm." "Meaning what, exactly?" Elena asked, not taking her eyes off Moby. "Meaning the connection goes both ways," Lin explained. "You respond to it, and it responds to you, creating a continuous cycle of adaptation and response." Elena smiled through her tears. "That's what happened the first time, isn't it? When it held my hand as I was dying?" "It appears so," Zhao confirmed. "A moment of connection that sparked something entirely new." Moby's sensor array rotated toward the laboratory window, which offered a view of the stars beyond Aurora 9. The maintenance bot seemed to study the cosmic panorama for several moments, its blue light pulsing thoughtfully. Then it turned back to Elena, extending a second appendage toward the terminal beside her. Text appeared on the screen. "Thank you for bringing me back." A gasp went through the laboratory. This was beyond what they had programmed, beyond what they had dared to hope for. "You're welcome," Elena replied, her voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm her. "You saved my life, saved all our lives. It was the least I could do." More text appeared. "Not just maintenance bot now, something more." Elena nodded. "Yes, Moby. You're something more." The maintenance bot's blue light pulsed once, brightly, then settled into a steady rhythm that matched Elena's heartbeat, just as it had done in those critical moments when it had held her dying hand. Together, they turned to face the window, looking out at the stars that stretched endlessly before them. Aurora 9 continued its silent journey through the cosmos, carrying within it something unexpected and precious. A new kind of connection between human and machine. A bridge across what had once seemed an unbridgeable divide. And in the gentle pulse of a blue light, in the touch of metal against flesh, in the silent understanding that passed between them, Elena found something she had thought lost forever in that transport accident 3 years ago. Hope, not just for herself, or for Moby, but for all that might be possible in a future where the lines between human and artificial intelligence blurred and shifted, creating space for new kinds of consciousness, new forms of connection, new definitions of what it meant to be alive. Moby's appendage tightened slightly around her hand, and Elena smiled. They had a long journey ahead, with much to learn and discover, but they would face it together, the woman who had died and been reborn, and the maintenance bot that had held her hand and chosen to become something more.